She thought her appearance would scare the human, but discovering her pod was deliberately sabotaged changed everything. As assassins unleash a storm of energy blasts, Liana and Alex fight desperately to escape. When the tavern barkeeper Krell reveals himself as an undercover operative and covers their retreat, they barely reach Alex's hidden ship, escaping under fire with evidence that could save the peace treaty. The pod's descent alarms screamed as Liana frantically worked the controls. Orange warning lights bathed her scaled features in an eerie glow as the evacuation vessel plummeted through Zartax's upper atmosphere, its stabilizers failing catastrophically. "Ancestors, take these worthless human machines," she growled, her clawed fingers dancing across the emergency override panel. The diplomatic transport she'd been aboard just hours earlier was now nothing but scattered debris in orbit after the surprise attack. Only Commander Thorne's quick thinking had gotten her into this escape pod before the explosions. Liana glanced at the navigation system, completely fried. Outside the small viewports, twin suns cast their dying light across an unfamiliar landscape of jagged rock formations and strange purple vegetation. The mining colony settlement, her only hope for survival, glowed faintly in the distance as darkness crept across the frontier world's horizon. A violent shudder rocked the pod as the secondary thrusters failed. Liana braced herself, golden eyes wide with the terrible certainty that she might die here, her diplomatic mission unfulfilled. The peace treaty between the Draconian Empire and the Tyrellian Confederation would remain unsigned, exactly as the mysterious attackers had intended. "Not today," she hissed through sharp teeth, engaging the manual landing protocols. The pod screamed as it tore through the lower atmosphere, heat shields glowing white-hot. Liana's claws dug into her seat restraints as the ground rushed up to meet her. With one final desperate maneuver, she angled the failing thrusters to cushion the impact. The world dissolved into chaos and darkness. Pain greeted Liana as consciousness returned. Her head throbbed mercilessly, and a warm trickle of blood, darker and thicker than a human's, oozed down the ridged scales of her forehead. She tasted copper as she ran her forked tongue across her lips. The pod lay at a precarious angle, partially embedded in the purple soil of Zartax. Through the cracked viewport, Liana could see the crude, prefabricated buildings of the mining settlement, less than a kilometer away. The twin suns had set, leaving only the ghostly light of 3 small moons to illuminate her surroundings. A quick assessment confirmed what she feared. Communications were down, life support failing, and her left leg was almost certainly fractured. Her bright orange scales had protected her from the worst of the crash, but she was far from unscathed. The ceremonial diplomat's garments she wore, flowing blue fabrics interwoven with symbols of her house, were torn and stained with her blood. Draconians were resilient by nature, evolved from apex predators on a harsh world. But even Liana had limits. She needed medical attention, shelter, and a way to contact her people. The settlement was her only hope. With a grunt of pain, she forced the pod's hatch open and dragged herself into the alien night. The air was thin, the gravity lighter than she was accustomed to. Each breath burned in her lungs as she began the slow, agonizing journey toward the distant lights, leaning heavily on a makeshift crutch fashioned from pod debris. The pain in her leg had become a dull throb by the time she reached the settlement's perimeter. Up close, the mining colony looked even more rudimentary, a haphazard collection of prefabricated structures connected by dusty pathways, illuminated by sporadic lighting. Most buildings appeared to be storage facilities or processing plants, but Liana spotted what seemed to be a gathering place, light and noise spilling from its entrance into the night. A tavern! Perfect! The boisterous sounds of conversation and laughter died the instant Liana stepped through the doorway. 24 faces, mostly human, with a few Tyrellians and 1 Garaxian, turned to stare at her with expressions ranging from shock to outright hostility. Her 7-foot frame, brilliant orange scales, and the prominent horned ridges along her skull were an unmistakable declaration of her draconian heritage. "I require assistance," Lyanna announced, fighting to keep her voice steady despite her pain and exhaustion. "My diplomatic vessel was attacked, and I crash-landed nearby." The silence stretched uncomfortably. Then a gruff human male behind the bar spoke. "We don't serve your kind here, lizard. Draconians bring nothing but trouble." A murmur of agreement rippled through the tavern. Someone in the back shouted, "Go back to your empire! Scaleface!" Lyanna drew herself up to her full height, wincing at the pain it caused. "I am Lyanna of House Caraxi, official emissary of the Draconian High Council. I invoke the Interstellar Code of Diplomatic Sanctuary." Cruel laughter was her only answer. The bartender, a heavy-set man with a tangled beard, sneered. "Diplomatic Code? This ain't no Confederation outpost, Scaleface. This is Zartax. We make our own rules here." "And Rule 1, added a Tyrellian miner, his gray skin flushed with intoxication, "is no lizards allowed." Lyanna felt her inner fire rising, the famous draconian temper threatening to break through her diplomatic training. She suppressed it with effort. These were exactly the sorts of prejudices her mission aimed to eliminate. If only they knew how their petty xenophobia played right into the hands of those who profited from continued conflict. "I require only basic medical attention and shelter until I can establish contact with my people," she persisted, dignity intact despite the blood drying on her scales. "I have Imperial credits." "Your lizard money's no good here," the bartender cut in, reaching beneath the counter. Lyanna tensed, anticipating a weapon. "Now get out before I decide to make a new pair of boots from your hide." Several patrons stood, menace in their postures. Lyanna weighed her options, calculating whether her injured state would allow her to defend herself if necessary. Before she could decide, a new voice cut through the tension. "That's enough, Krell." The crowd parted as a human in a sleek black and silver protective suit stepped forward. Unlike the miners with their utilitarian attire and weathered faces, this human moved with quiet confidence. The suit, clearly expensive and technologically advanced, covered most of their body, with only the face exposed. And what a face it was! Sharp features softened by intelligent eyes that assessed Lyanna without a trace of the fear or hatred displayed by the others. "The diplomat invoked sanctuary," the newcomer continued, gaze locked with the bartender's. "Even on Zartax, that still means something." The bartender, Krell, scowled, but made no move to retrieve whatever he'd been reaching for. "This ain't your business, Alex." "I'm making it my business." The human, named Alex, turned to Lyanna, offering a slight bow that acknowledged her status. "Emissary. I have medical supplies at my quarters. You're welcome to them, and to shelter until you can contact your people." Whispers erupted around the tavern. Lyanna studied the human carefully, searching for signs of deception. Finding none, she inclined her head in a formal draconian gesture of acceptance. "I accept your offer of assistance, human Alex." A smile flickered across Alex's face, warm and genuine, startling in its sincerity. "Just, Alex is fine. Let's get you patched up." As they moved toward the exit, the bartender called after them. "Your funeral, Alex. Don't come crying when that lizard slits your throat in your sleep." Alex paused, turning back with a look of calm confidence. "Funny thing about prejudice, Krell. It makes people miss what's right in front of them." Then, more quietly, so only Lyanna could hear, "And I'm a very light sleeper anyway." Outside, in the cool night air, Lyanna felt her tension slightly ease. Alex moved efficiently beside her, matching pace to accommodate her injury without making it obvious, a subtle courtesy that surprised her. "Why did you intervene?" Lyanna asked, as they made their way through the settlement's dim pathways. "Your fellow humans clearly share the bartender's sentiments. Alex's expression remained neutral. Not all humans think alike. Emissary. Just as I imagine not all Draconians do. Besides, I've spent enough time on diplomatic stations to know that an injured envoy, left to die on a frontier world, makes for very uncomfortable interspecies relations. There was something in the way Alex said it, a hint of humor beneath the pragmatic response, that caught Liana's attention. This human was different. A practical consideration, she acknowledged with a slight tilt of her horned head. Though I suspect there may be more to your intervention than avoiding diplomatic incidents. Alex's lips curved into another of those unexpected smiles. Let's just say I prefer to make up my own mind about people, scaled or otherwise. They approached a residential section of the colony, where modular living units stood in neat rows. Alex led her to one at the edge of the settlement, more isolated than the others and slightly larger, though still modest by any standard. Home sweet home, Alex announced, pressing a palm against the entry scanner. The door slid open with a soft hiss. It's not exactly imperial accommodations, but it's clean and secure. Liana ducked her head to enter the compact space. The interior was surprisingly well appointed for a frontier dwelling. Clean lines, minimal but functional furnishings, and several pieces of technology that seemed more advanced than the standard mining colony issue. A small kitchen area, a living space with comfortable seating, and a single door that presumably led to sleeping quarters. You are not a miner, Liana observed as Alex gestured for her to sit on what appeared to be a reinforced couch. Geological surveyor, Alex replied smoothly, retrieving a sophisticated medical kit from a storage compartment. Contracted by the Tyrellian Mining Consortium to assess new potential dig sites. Liana's diplomatic training had taught her to recognize evasion, but she chose not to press. She was, after all, at this human's mercy for the moment. Alex knelt beside her, opening the medical kit. May I? The human asked, gesturing to her injured leg with a handheld scanner. Liana nodded, surprised by the request for permission. Most non-Draconians either feared to touch her kind, or acted with clinical detachment if forced to do so. The scanner hummed softly as Alex passed it over her injured leg. Hairline fracture of the tibia, or whatever the Draconian equivalent is called. Nothing that won't heal cleanly with proper treatment. Alex selected an injector from the kit. This is a broad-spectrum regenerative serum. It's compatible with Draconian physiology. I checked the medical database. Again, Liana was struck by the human's competence and consideration. You seem unusually knowledgeable about interspecies medicine for a geological surveyor. Alex's eyes met hers briefly. I travel a lot. Pays to be prepared. With gentle precision, Alex administered the injection near the fracture site. The pain should ease within minutes. Full healing will take a few days. But you'll be able to walk normally by morning. As Alex proceeded to clean and dress the cut on her forehead, Liana found herself studying the human's face at close range. There was a subtle scar along the jawline, and the eyes, a striking shade that reminded Liana of the shallow seas on her homeworld, held a depth of experience that seemed at odds with Alex's apparent age. Your colony companions seemed surprised by your intervention, Liana observed. You are not well integrated with them. Alex's hands remained steady as they applied a healing gel to her scaled forehead. I keep to myself. Makes my work easier. And what work might that truly be? Liana asked, her diplomatic instincts pushing for clarity. The human's eyes flickered to hers, and for a moment, Liana thought she might receive an honest answer. Instead, Alex secured the bandage and stepped back with a small smile. The work of making sure valuable assets don't get unnecessarily damaged. Are you hungry? I can prepare something while the medication takes effect. Liana recognized the deflection but decided not to push further. Yes, the emergency rations in the escape pod were unappetizing even before I crashed. Alex moved to the kitchen area, Programming the small food synthesizer. Draconian metabolism runs hot, right? High protein, complex carbohydrates? Correct. Though I've adapted to consume a variety of diets during my diplomatic service. No need to adapt tonight, Alex replied, producing 2 steaming bowls a few minutes later. Synthesized, but based on a draconian recipe. Should taste like home, or close enough. Leanna accepted the bowl, inhaling the familiar aroma of spiced proteins and fermented grains. It was indeed a traditional draconian dish, one typically served to honored guests. The gesture was not lost on her. "You continue to surprise me, human Alex." "Just Alex," came the reply, as the human settled across from her, with a different meal. Something milder, suited to human tastes. And surprising people keeps life interesting. As they ate, the regenerative serum began to work its magic. The throbbing pain in Leanna's legs subsided to a dull ache, and the pounding in her head diminished. With physical comfort came a moment to truly process her situation, stranded on a frontier world, known for its anti-draconian sentiment, her diplomatic mission in jeopardy, and dependent on a mysterious human who seemed both helpful and secretive. "You mentioned needing to contact your people," Alex said, breaking the comfortable silence that had fallen between them. "My communications array is limited, but it might reach the nearest Confederation relay station if atmospheric conditions are favorable." Leanna set down her empty bowl. "I would be grateful for the attempt, though I suspect our attackers will be monitoring standard channels." "Attackers?" Alex's posture shifted subtly, more alert, focused. Leanna weighed how much to reveal. Diplomatic caution suggested minimal disclosure, but her instincts told her this human might be more valuable as an ally than a mere temporary host. "My transport was attacked by what appeared to be privateer vessels, though their tactics suggested military training. The official Draconian Diplomatic Corps vessel, carrying several members of our diplomatic team, was destroyed. I was on a separate evacuation shuttle on Commander Thorne's orders." She paused, remembering the urgency in her superior's voice as he'd practically shoved her into the escape pod. "It seems someone does not wish the peace treaty between the Draconian Empire and the Tyrellian Confederation to proceed." Alex's expression remained neutral, but Leanna caught the slight narrowing of eyes that indicated intense interest. "Weapon manufacturers," the human said softly. "Military contractors, arms dealers. Peace is bad for business." Leanna tilted her head, reassessing her host. "That analysis suggests familiarity with interstellar politics beyond what a typical geological surveyor might possess." A smile touched Alex's lips. "I read the news feeds. War and peace affect mineral prices, too." The human stood, collecting their empty bowls. "We can try contacting your people in the morning. For now, you should rest. The regenerative serum works best during sleep cycles." Leanna couldn't argue with the logic, though she suspected there was more to Alex's suggestion than medical concern. Rest would indeed help her recovery, and recovery was essential if she were to complete her mission. Whatever complications now stood in her way. Alex led her to the sleeping quarters, a simple room dominated by a single double bed. Various personal items were neatly arranged on shelves, and a small workstation sat in one corner, its screens dark. "You can take the bed," Alex offered. "I'll sleep in the main room." Leanna hesitated, discomfort evident in her posture. In Draconian culture, sharing sleeping quarters, especially a bed, held significant implications. It was an intimate gesture reserved for family, mates, or those with whom one had established deep bonds of trust. To accept such an offer from a stranger, a human no less. Alex seemed to read her hesitation correctly. "It's just a bed, emissary. No cultural significance attached on my end. Just practicality. You're injured and need proper rest." Leanna straightened her spine, horned ridges catching the room's soft light. Draconians do not require coddling. Human. I am perfectly capable of resting in the main room. The injury is minor. A flash of amusement crossed Alex's face. Always so dramatic, you Draconians. We are not dramatic, Lyanna replied with reflexive indignation. We are dignified. Dignifiedly dramatic, Alex countered, with a smile that somehow disarmed Lyanna's rising offense. Look, the couch isn't designed for someone of your height or bone structure. The bed is reinforced and actually made for diverse physiologies. Take it. Lyanna found herself caught between cultural reluctance and practical necessity. The human was right. The couch would be uncomfortable for her frame, particularly with her injury. And yet, in my culture, she began, feeling strangely compelled to explain. Sharing sleeping quarters is not done casually. It implies a level of connection. Alex's expression softened with understanding. Cultural taboo? I didn't realize. In that case, I can sleep in my workspace down the hall. It has a cot. That would be acceptable, Lyanna conceded, relieved by the compromise yet oddly disappointed at the same time. A contradictory reaction she chose not to examine too closely. As Alex gathered a few personal items, Lyanna settled gingerly on the edge of the bed, testing its support. It was indeed well constructed, clearly designed for non-human physiology as well as human. Another curious detail about her enigmatic host. The sanitation unit is through that door. Alex indicated a small adjoining room. It's configured for multiple species. There are clean garments in the storage unit, nothing fancy, but they should fit your frame well enough for sleeping. Lyanna nodded her thanks, struck again by the human's thoughtfulness. You have shown unexpected kindness to a stranger. Alex, my people would say such actions create a debt of honor. Alex paused at the doorway, those sea-colored eyes meeting hers with surprising intensity. No debt, just the right thing to do. With that, Alex left her alone, the door sliding shut with a soft hiss. Lyanna's night was restless, despite her exhaustion and the comfortable bed. Dreams of exploding starships and shadowy conspirators plagued her sleep, interspersed with flashes of sea-colored eyes and unexpected kindness. She woke to the soft chime of an automated wake cycle, momentarily disoriented before remembering her circumstances. The regenerative serum had worked remarkably well. Her leg bore only a dull ache when she tested her weight on it, and the cut on her forehead had sealed completely, leaving only a faint line among her scales that would fade within days. Draconians healed quickly by nature. With medical assistance, the process was impressively accelerated. After using the sanitation unit, indeed configured for multiple species as Alex had said, Lyanna found a simple black jumpsuit that accommodated her tail and broader shoulders. It was clearly designed for non-human physiology, with adjustable panels and specialized fastenings. Another curious possession for a geological surveyor. She emerged from the sleeping quarters to find Alex in the kitchen area, preparing what appeared to be breakfast. The human wore a similar protective suit to yesterday's, though in darker colors, and looked up with a smile at her approach. Sleep well? Adequately, Lyanna replied, unwilling to admit to her troubled dreams. The medication was effective. I thank you for your assistance. Alex gestured to a seat at the small dining surface. Hungry? I've programmed something suitable for morning nutrition. Lyanna accepted the offered meal. Another draconian dish. Simpler than last night's, but still culturally appropriate. As they ate, she studied her host with renewed curiosity. In the light of the artificial morning, Alex seemed both more substantial and more mysterious. The protective suit covered most of the human's body, revealing only hands, neck, and face. Practical for Zartax's harsh environment, perhaps, but also concealing. I would like to return to my crash site today, Lyanna said after finishing her meal. The pod systems may be repairable, and it contains encrypted communication equipment that could reach my government securely. Alex nodded thoughtfully. Reasonable plan, though we should be cautious, if your attackers were thorough. They might have tracked the pod's descent. You believe they would send ground forces to confirm my demise? Leanna asked, impressed by the human's strategic thinking. I would, if I were them, Alex replied simply. An assassination attempt that fails is worse than no attempt at all, especially when the target is a diplomat carrying crucial information. Leanna studied the human's face, searching for hidden meaning behind the words. Your analysis continues to suggest expertise beyond geological surveying. Alex's lips quirked in that now familiar hint of a smile. I've lived in contested regions before. You learn to think defensively. The human rose, clearing their dishes. I have equipment that might help repair your pod systems. We can head out once the suns are fully up. Less chance of predators in full daylight. Predators? Leanna inquired, one scaled eyebrow ridge lifting. Zartax's native fauna. Nothing a draconian warrior can't handle. I'm sure. But why take chances? There was that hint of teasing again. Subtle but unmistakable. Leanna found herself responding to it despite her diplomatic reserve. Diplomats are trained in combat as well. Human. We simply prefer words to weapons when possible. A preference I share, Alex replied. And for a moment, something sincere and unguarded flashed in those sea-colored eyes. They set out an hour later, Alex carrying a pack of tools and electronic equipment. Leanna moving, with only the slightest hint of a limp. The twin suns of Zartax beat down from a pale lavender sky, illuminating the strange purple vegetation that dominated the landscape beyond the settlement's perimeter. The colony seems largely self-contained, Leanna observed as they passed the last of the prefabricated structures. Little integration with the native ecosystem. Alex nodded. Turellian mining operations are designed to minimize environmental footprint, not from altruism, but efficiency. Less interaction with local biomes means fewer unexpected complications. A pragmatic approach, Leanna acknowledged. Though limited in cultural scope, Alex cast her a curious glance. How so? Understanding an environment, truly understanding it, requires engagement, not isolation. My people believe that to know a world, one must taste its waters, breathe its unique air, feel its soils. She gestured to the purple flora surrounding them. These plants, for instance, they appear defensive in posture, with thick outer layers, suggesting a history of herbivore pressure. Yet they display vibrant coloration, indicating pollinator relationships. A complex evolutionary story that the colonists ignore entirely. Alex's expression brightened with genuine interest. You're a xenobotanist as well as a diplomat? Leanna felt a strange pleasure at the human's recognition of her knowledge. All draconian diplomats receive extensive scientific training. Understanding biological systems provides insight into cultural ones. Both involve complex networks of relationships, dependencies, and adaptations. That's actually a fascinating perspective, Alex said. And the sincerity in the human's voice warmed something in Leanna's chest. Most interspecies diplomats I've encountered focus solely on political and economic factors. Then you have encountered inferior diplomats, Leanna stated flatly, her typical draconian bluntness emerging. Alex laughed, a bright, genuine sound that startled Leanna with its warmth. And modest, too. Leanna felt her neck frills flare slightly in embarrassment, a physiological response she couldn't entirely control. Draconians value direct communication. False modesty serves no purpose. I wasn't criticizing, Alex assured her, that smile still playing at the corners of the human's mouth. It's refreshing, actually. Humans tend to layer everything in social niceties until the meaning gets lost. An inefficient communication method, Leanna observed. Inefficient but occasionally necessary. softens the blow when the truth is uncomfortable. Liana considered this as they continued walking. Is that why you evade direct questions about your true purpose here? To soften uncomfortable truths? The smile faded from Alex's face, replaced by a more measured expression. Some truths are dangerous, emissary, not just uncomfortable. Before Liana could pursue this intriguing statement, they crested a small rise, and her crashed pod came into view. The vessel lay half buried in the purple soil, its hull scorched and damaged but largely intact. No obvious signs of tampering were visible from this distance. Seems undisturbed," Alex murmured, scanning the surroundings with a thoroughness that again belied the geological surveyor cover story. They approached, cautiously, Alex producing a small scanner from the equipment pack. No active energy signatures or surveillance devices detected. If anyone's been here, they didn't leave technology behind. Liana moved to the pod's damaged hatch, examining the control panel. The main systems are offline, but the emergency power reserves might be sufficient for a diagnostic scan. Working together, they managed to access the pod's backup systems. Liana's clawed fingers moved with practiced efficiency across the controls, while Alex connected portable diagnostic equipment to the damaged communication array. "This is odd," Liana murmured after several minutes of examination. "The navigation and communication systems show signs of tampering prior to the crash." Alex looked up sharply. "Sabotage?" "Perhaps, but not the kind one would expect." Liana indicated the diagnostic readings. "These systems weren't disabled to cause a crash. They were modified to ensure I would land specifically in this region. The targeting parameters were actually enhanced, not damaged." Alex moved closer, studying the readings over Liana's shoulder. The human's proximity sent an unexpected shiver along Liana's spine, a reaction she attributed to the stress of their discovery. "Someone wanted you to crash here specifically," Alex said softly. "But why Zartax? It's a backwater mining colony with no strategic value." "Perhaps for that very reason," Liana suggested. "A remote location, hostile to Draconians, where a diplomat might disappear without triggering immediate suspicion. Or," Alex added, "a place where someone trustworthy could find you." Their eyes met, the implication hanging in the air between them. Before either could speak further, a small compartment near the pilot's seat slid open with a soft hiss. "That's the secure message cache," Liana explained, reaching for the small holographic projector that had emerged. "It activates only for authorized Draconian DNA." As her scaled fingers touched the device, it hummed to life, projecting the image of a stern-faced Draconian male in high-ranking military attire. "Commander Thorne," Liana breathed in surprise. The holographic figure spoke in the harsh, sibilant tones of the Draconian language. Alex couldn't understand the words, but watched Liana's expression shift from surprise to shock to grim determination as the message played. When the projection faded, Liana was silent for a long moment, her golden eyes focused on something distant. "Bad news?" Alex asked quietly. Liana's gaze snapped back to the present. "The attack on our vessel was anticipated. Commander Thorne had intelligence that weapons manufacturers from both the Confederation and the Empire were collaborating to prevent the peace treaty. My evacuation was planned, as was my arrival on Zartax." "Why here specifically?" Liana's eyes narrowed. "Commander Thorne said I would find an ally here. Someone with the resources and connections to help me reach the diplomatic summit with evidence of the conspiracy." She studied Alex with renewed intensity. "He did not specify who." Alex maintained a carefully neutral expression. "Interesting coincidence that I found you, then." "Draconians do not believe in coincidences," Liana stated flatly. A tense silence stretched between them, broken by a sudden alert from Alex's scanner. The human glanced down at the device, expression hardening instantly. "We have company. Multiple humanoid heat signatures approaching from the north, moving with tactical precision." Liana hissed softly, instinctively reaching for a weapon she didn't have. How many? 6. Armed, based on their movement patterns. Alex was already packing up the diagnostic equipment with efficient speed. We need to move, now. The holographic evidence, Liana began, reaching for the projector. Bring it, Alex said, already moving toward the southern edge of the crash site. But our priority is staying alive to deliver it. They retreated into a dense cluster of purple vegetation, just as the first of their pursuers appeared at the northern ridge. Through the thick foliage, Liana could make out humanoid figures in nondescript tactical gear, intentionally lacking any insignia or identification. Professional mercenaries, Alex whispered, crouched beside her in the underbrush. Probably hired through third-party contractors to maintain deniability. You seem familiar with such operations, Liana observed quietly. Alex's eyes met hers, and for the first time, the human's carefully maintained facade showed cracks. Let's just say I recognize the type. They watched as the mercenaries approached the pod, scanning for life signs and examining the area with methodical precision. They're searching for bodies, Alex murmured. They expected to find you dead in the crash. And when they don't? Liana asked, though she already knew the answer. They'll expand their search perimeter. We need to get back to the settlement before they pick up our trail. They began to move carefully through the dense vegetation, using it as cover, while maintaining distance from the mercenary team. Alex led the way, with surprising skill, choosing paths that minimized their traces and utilizing the natural features of the landscape to mask their movement. They had made it nearly halfway back to the settlement when the first energy blast sizzled past them, scorching the purple vegetation mere centimeters from Liana's head. They've spotted us, Alex stated unnecessarily, pulling Liana behind a large rock formation. Change of plans. To Liana's surprise, the human produced a compact energy pistol from a concealed holster in the protective suit. Geological surveyors typically carry military-grade weapons? Liana asked dryly, as energy blasts continued to impact around their position. Alex's lips quirked in that now familiar half-smile. I survey dangerous geology. Another blast hit dangerously close, showering them with fragments of rock and soil. In the distance, they could hear the mercenaries calling to each other, coordinating their approach. I count at least 4 approaching from the north, Liana reported, her superior draconian vision picking out details through the vegetation. 2 others circling to flank us from the east. Alex nodded, checking the weapon's charge. We're outnumbered and outgunned. We need to split up, create confusion, divide their forces. Tactical retreat? Liana suggested, her diplomatic training giving way to the warrior culture that formed the foundation of all draconian education. Exactly. You head west, then south toward the settlement. I'll create a diversion to the east, then circle back to meet you at my quarters. Liana frowned, the ridges above her eyes furrowing. You place yourself at greater risk. I know the terrain better, Alex countered, already preparing to move. And frankly, I'm harder to spot at a distance than a 7-foot orange draconian. There was logic in the human's plan, but Liana felt an unexpected reluctance to separate. Very well, but take this. She removed a scaled bracelet from her wrist, a ceremonial piece of draconian diplomatic attire that also functioned as a short-range communication device. It will allow us to coordinate once we're within 2 kilometers of each other. Alex accepted the bracelet with a nod, slipping it over her wrist. On my mark, then. 3, 2, 1, go. Liana burst from cover, moving west with impressive speed despite her recent injury. Behind her, she heard Alex firing several shots toward the northern mercenary position, not aiming to hit, but to draw attention and fire. The diversion worked. Most of the incoming fire redirected toward Alex's position as Liana slipped deeper into the purple vegetation, using natural cover and her own combat training to move swiftly and silently away from the confrontation. She had covered nearly half a kilometer when she heard the distinctive whine of a high-powered energy weapon discharging, different from the mercenaries' standard-issue blasters. A moment later, an explosion rocked the area she'd fled from. Alex had apparently prepared a more substantial diversion than mere covering fire. Anxiety for the human's safety flared in her chest, an unusually strong reaction that momentarily confused her. She had known Alex barely a day, yet felt a connection that defied easy explanation. Perhaps it was simply the bond formed in shared danger, or gratitude for unexpected assistance. Whatever its nature, the feeling spurred her to move faster toward the settlement. As she approached the colony's perimeter, Liana slowed her pace, adopting a more casual posture to avoid drawing attention. The few colonists visible at this hour barely glanced her way, her distinctive appearance having already been noted the previous day, and her presence apparently accepted, if not welcomed. She had nearly reached Alex's quarters when the communication bracelet on her wrist vibrated softly. Activating it, she heard Alex's voice, slightly breathless, but otherwise intact. "Change of plans. Meet me at the East Storage Facility instead of my quarters. They might be watching my place." Relief washed through Liana at the sound of the human's voice. "Understood. Are you injured?" "Nothing serious. Had to take a scenic route back. Be careful. I spotted what might be their contacts inside the settlement." The transmission ended, leaving Liana to navigate toward the eastern section of the colony. The storage facilities were primarily automated, with minimal personnel, ideal for a clandestine meeting. She moved carefully, using the spaces between buildings and staying alert for any sign of pursuit. The eastern storage facility was a large, nondescript building with few windows and multiple access points. Liana approached cautiously, scanning for surveillance before entering through a side maintenance door, as Alex had instructed, via a follow-up message. Inside, the facility was dimly lit and filled with shipping containers and mining equipment. Liana moved silently between the towering stacks, her senses alert for any sign of danger, or of Alex. She had just rounded a particularly large container when a hand grasped her arm, pulling her into a shadowed alcove. Her combat instincts flared, clawed hand rising to strike, before she recognized Alex's face in the dim light. "Easy," the human murmured, releasing her arm. "It's just me." Liana relaxed marginally, noting the disheveled state of Alex's protective suit and a small burn mark on one sleeve. "You encountered resistance." "2 of them," Alex confirmed. "They won't be reporting back." The matter-of-fact way the human delivered this information confirmed what Liana had already suspected. Alex was no civilian surveyor, but someone with extensive combat training and experience. "We need to move quickly," Alex continued, leading her deeper into the storage facility. "I don't think they've identified my quarters yet, but it's not safe to return there. We need an alternative exit strategy." "The settlement has a communications array," Liana suggested. "Perhaps we could—" "Too public, too monitored," Alex cut in. "And any transmission would be tracked instantly." The human paused at an intersection of container rows, checking both directions before proceeding. "No, we need something with more range and less visibility." They reached what appeared to be a maintenance access at the rear of the facility. Alex keyed in a code on the secure panel, another curious capability for a supposed surveyor, and the door slid open to reveal a small loading area. "Where are we going?" Liana asked as they crossed the empty space toward what looked like a large equipment shed. "To my backup plan," Alex replied cryptically, approaching the shed and activating another secure panel hidden beneath a maintenance cover. The shed's large doors slid open to reveal not mining equipment, but a sleek spacecraft, compact but obviously built for speed and stealth rather than cargo capacity. Its dark hull bore no identification markings, and its design incorporated technology that Liana recognized as military-grade. "You are definitely not a geological surveyor," she stated flatly. Alex's lips curved in that now familiar half-smile. "Not primarily, no." Before Liana could demand further explanation, the sound of energy weapons discharging came from the direction of the storage facility. Their pursuers had found their trail. "Explanations later," Alex said, hitting a sequence on a wrist control that lowered the ship's boarding ramp. "Right now, we need to leave." They had barely reached the ramp when the first mercenaries burst into the loading area. Weapons raised. Energy blasts impacted around them as they sprinted for the ship's entrance. Alex turned, returning fire with precision that dropped the lead pursuer and forced the others to seek cover. Liana was halfway up the ramp when she saw movement from the corner of her eye, a mercenary emerging from concealment at the side of the loading area. Weapon aimed directly at Alex's unprotected back. Without hesitation, Liana launched herself from the ramp, her powerful draconian muscles propelling her through the air with explosive force. She collided with the mercenary just as he fired, the energy blast going wide as they crashed to the ground. With one powerful sweep of her clawed hand, she disarmed him, following with a strike to the throat that left him gasping and incapacitated. "Liana!" Alex's voice called urgently from the ramp. She turned to see more mercenaries converging on their position. As she sprinted back toward the ship, a familiar figure emerged from the storage facility entrance, Krell, the bartender from the tavern. But instead of joining the attackers, he raised what appeared to be a heavy military-grade blaster and opened fire on the mercenaries, providing unexpected covering fire. "Move!" Krell shouted, his gruff voice carrying across the loading area. "I've got this!" Alex pulled Liana aboard as more energy blasts exchanged behind them. The ramp sealed shut as they entered, and Alex moved with practiced efficiency to the pilot's controls, initiating launch sequences with the speed of someone intimately familiar with the vessel. "The bartender," Liana began, "is more than he appears," Alex finished, hands dancing across the controls. "As are many on this frontier world. Strap in. This launch won't be gentle." Liana secured herself in the co-pilot seat as the ship's engines roared to life. Through the viewport, she could see the storage facility doors blasted open as more mercenaries poured in, only to be met by Krell's surprisingly effective defense. "Who is he really?" she asked as the ship lifted off, acceleration pressing her into the seat. "Korquan intelligence operative," Alex replied, focused on the controls as they rapidly gained altitude. "Deep cover. Been monitoring weapons shipments through this sector for years." The ship shuddered as something impacted its shields, ground-based weapons fire attempting to prevent their escape. Alex executed a series of evasive maneuvers, the small vessel responding with impressive agility as they climbed toward Zartax's upper atmosphere. "And you," Liana pressed, golden eyes fixed on the human's profile. "Who are you really, Alex?" For a moment, the human remained focused on piloting the increasingly smooth ascent as they left the planet's gravity well behind. Then, with the immediate danger of pursuit fading, Alex turned to meet Liana's gaze directly. "Terran Alliance Intelligence," came the quiet admission. "Assigned to track the same weapons consortium that targeted your diplomatic mission. We've suspected for months that they were working to sabotage the peace treaty." Liana absorbed this revelation, pieces falling into place. "Commander Thorne knew you were here, the ally he mentioned in his message." Alex nodded, turning back to check the sensor readings. "We've been sharing intelligence discreetly. The conspiracy reaches high levels in both our governments. We couldn't risk official channels. So my crash landing here was orchestrated to get you safely to me. Yes. Though the attack on your main vessel wasn't part of the plan, that was the conspirators moving faster than we anticipated." The ship continued its smooth ascent into orbit, Zartax diminishing beneath them. Liana studied Alex with new understanding, noting how the human moved with the confident precision of a trained operative now that the pretense of being a surveyor had been abandoned. "You deceived me," she stated, not as an accusation but as a fact. Alex glanced at her, something like regret flickering in those sea-colored eyes. Operational security. I couldn't be certain the pod hadn't been compromised until I examined it myself. And yet you intervened at the tavern before confirming my identity. A small smile touched Alex's lips. Some risks are worth taking. Something in the way the human said it, a warmth beneath the professional exterior, sent an unexpected flutter through Liana's chest. Before she could examine the sensation further, the ship's sensors chimed an alert. Orbital Security Patrol, Alex reported, studying the readings. Standard procedure. They shouldn't be connected to our pursuers, but we shouldn't take chances. The human's fingers moved across the controls, activating what Liana recognized as advanced stealth systems. We'll maintain low orbit until we're on the far side of the planet. Then, make the jump to the diplomatic summit coordinates. You know where the backup summit location is? Liana asked, impressed despite herself. Part of my mission parameters, Alex confirmed. The consortium doesn't know about the contingency site. At least, we don't think they do. It should be safe. As the ship settled into a stable orbit, hidden from conventional sensors by its stealth systems, the immediate urgency faded. In its place came a moment of quiet where both Liana and Alex could finally process the events of the past day and the revelations that had emerged. Commander Thorne's message contained evidence, Liana said, producing the holographic projector from a secure pocket in her jumpsuit. Financial transactions, communication logs, and shipping manifests linking weapons manufacturers from both the Empire and Confederation to efforts to undermine the peace process. Alex accepted the device, examining it with professional interest. This, combined with what Krell has gathered and my own intelligence, should be enough to expose the consortium at the summit. If we reach it safely, Liana added, pragmatic as always. We will. Alex's confidence seemed genuine rather than bravado. This ship has gotten me out of tighter situations than this. As if to emphasize the point, the vessel completed its arc around Zartax's dark side, emerging into the light of the twin suns, with no sign of pursuit on the sensors. Alex initiated the next phase of their journey, programming coordinates into the faster-than-light navigation system. It will take approximately 3 days to reach the summit location at maximum safe speed, the human explained. The ship is well provisioned, and the living quarters, while compact, should be adequate. Liana nodded, suddenly aware of their situation. 3 days confined in a small vessel, with the enigmatic human who had saved her life, and now revealed a hidden identity. The prospect stirred a complex mix of emotions she wasn't entirely prepared to analyze. I should examine the evidence more thoroughly, she said, rising from the co-pilot's seat as Alex engaged the autopilot. Diplomatic protocol requires that I understand all aspects of the documentation before presenting it at the summit. Of course, Alex agreed, standing as well. The ship has a small work area where you can review the materials comfortably. I'll show you. The interior of the vessel was indeed compact but efficiently designed. Beyond the cockpit lay a central area that served as both galley and general living space, with doors leading to what Alex identified as sleeping quarters, sanitation facilities, and a small but well-equipped workspace. The ship is designed for extended solo missions, Alex explained as they entered the work area. But it can accommodate 2 comfortably enough. The space contained a multifunction console that Alex activated with a touch, bringing up holographic displays that could be configured for various purposes. You can review the evidence here. The system is secure, isolated from any external networks that could be compromised. Liana moved to the console, familiarizing herself with its controls. Similar enough to draconian technology that she could navigate it easily, yet with distinct Terran design elements that reminded her of the cross-cultural nature of their situation. Thank you, she said, turning to find Alex standing closer than she had realized. those sea-colored eyes studying her with an intensity that made her scales warm slightly. For everything. My survival. The evidence. This chance to complete my mission. Alex's expression softened. Just doing my job, emissary. Leanna, she corrected, surprising herself with the informality. I think we're beyond titles at this point. Alex. A genuine smile spread across the human's face. Not the careful half-smile of earlier, but something more open and warm. Leanna, then... For a moment, they stood in silence, the small space suddenly feeling both intimate and charged with unspoken possibilities. Then, Alex stepped back, professional demeanor returning. I'll check our course and make sure we're not being followed. Take whatever time you need with the evidence. As the human left, Leanna turned to the console, attempting to focus on the diplomatic materials rather than the confusing emotions stirring within her. She was a draconian diplomat on a crucial peace mission, not some adolescent distracted by what, exactly? Attraction to a human? The notion was as improbable as it was inappropriate. And yet, as she worked through the evidence, her thoughts kept returning to Alex, the quiet competence, the unexpected kindness, the way those sea-colored eyes seemed to see beyond her scales and horns to the person beneath. It was unsettling and oddly exhilarating. Hours passed as Leanna immersed herself in the evidence, building a comprehensive understanding of the conspiracy and its implications for the peace process. The materials were damning, clear connections between military contractors and officials on both sides, all working to ensure that the lucrative business of interstellar conflict continued uninterrupted. She was so absorbed in her work that she didn't notice Alex's return until a gentle touch on her shoulder startled her from her concentration. Sorry, Alex said, withdrawing the hand quickly. Didn't mean to startle you. Just thought you might be hungry. Leanna realized with surprise that significant time had indeed passed, her body's needs overshadowed by her focus on the diplomatic materials. Yes. I suppose I am. I've prepared something, Alex said, gesturing toward the main living area. Nothing elaborate, but the synthesizer is programmed with a decent range of draconian cuisine. Following Alex to the galley, Leanna found a simple meal laid out, nutrient-rich food suitable for her species, alongside human fare for Alex. The thoughtfulness of the gesture affected her more deeply than seemed reasonable. You continue to surprise me with your knowledge of draconian customs, she observed as they settled to eat. Alex's expression held that hint of amusement that Leanna was coming to anticipate. Intelligence work requires cultural understanding. Besides, draconian cuisine has some interesting parallels with certain Earth regional foods. As they ate, the conversation shifted from the evidence to broader discussions of their respective cultures. Alex proved to be surprisingly knowledgeable about draconian history and customs, asking insightful questions that revealed genuine interest rather than mere professional necessity. Your people's evolution from apex predators explains much about draconian diplomatic approaches, Alex observed. Direct, territorial, yet with complex social hierarchies and alliance structures. It's fascinating how biology shapes culture. You sound like a xenoanthropologist rather than an intelligence operative, Leanna noted, pleased by the human's perception. The best operatives are both, Alex replied. Understanding other species' cultural contexts is essential for effective intelligence work. Otherwise, you misinterpret everything through your own cultural lens. A wisdom many diplomats would benefit from as well, Leanna acknowledged. Too often, interspecies negotiations falter on cultural misunderstandings rather than substantive disagreements. The conversation flowed with unexpected ease, touching on topics from evolutionary biology to art forms, from governance structures to cuisine. Hours passed unnoticed as they shared perspectives and found surprising points of commonality, despite their different origins. "It's late," Alex finally noted, glancing at the ship's chronometer. "We should rest. Tomorrow we can review the combined evidence and prepare our presentation for the summit." Liana nodded, suddenly aware of the fatigue in her body despite the engaging conversation. Then a realization struck her. The ship had only one sleeping area, designed for a single occupant. Alex seemed to read her thoughts. "The sleeping quarters convert to accommodate two. It's a bit cozy, but better than one of us taking the floor in the main area." Liana felt her neck frills flutter involuntarily, a draconian physiological response to emotional stimulus that she couldn't entirely control. The prospect of sharing such close quarters with Alex stirred that same confusion of feelings she'd been trying to ignore. In my culture," she began awkwardly. "The bed-sharing taboo," Alex recalled. "I remember, but these are exceptional circumstances, and the sleeping platform can be configured as separate units. No cultural implications necessary." There was something in the human's tone, a careful neutrality that might have masked disappointment. Surely Liana was imagining that. "That would be acceptable," she agreed, following Alex to the sleeping quarters. The room was indeed small, dominated by a sleeping platform that Alex quickly reconfigured into two separate units, with a privacy screen between them. The transformation was efficient, but left each of them with limited space. "Not exactly imperial accommodations," Alex said with a slight smile. "But functional." "Draconians value function over luxury," Liana replied automatically, though the cramped quarters would certainly challenge her species' preference for personal space. As they prepared for their rest cycle, Liana found herself acutely aware of Alex's presence on the other side of the thin privacy screen. The sounds of movement, the subtle shifts in air current, even the faint human scent, all registered on her heightened draconian senses with unexpected intensity. "Alex," she said softly, as the ship's lighting dimmed for the rest cycle. "Yes," came the equally quiet response. "Thank you for understanding about my cultural sensitivities." A moment of silence. Then, "We all have our cultural frameworks. Liana, respecting them isn't a burden. It's just decent." The simple statement warmed something in Liana's chest. How strange that this human, this Terran intelligence operative, showed more genuine respect for her cultural identity than many she had encountered in her diplomatic career. "Good rest, Alex." "Good rest, Liana." Despite the unfamiliar surroundings and the lingering tension of their situation, Liana fell asleep more easily than she had expected, lulled by the soft hum of the ship's systems and the oddly comforting presence of her human companion just beyond the privacy screen. Her dreams were a confused mixture of diplomatic negotiations, pursuing mercenaries, and sea-colored eyes that seemed to see through her carefully maintained diplomatic facade to something more vulnerable beneath. She woke to the soft chime of the ship's morning cycle, momentarily disoriented until the events of the previous days rushed back. Rising, she found the privacy screen already retracted and Alex's sleeping area empty and neatly arranged. After using the compact sanitation facilities, Liana emerged into the main living area to find Alex at the ship's primary console, reviewing data with focused intensity. The human looked up at her approach, offering a smile that seemed warmer than professional courtesy would require. "Rest well?" "Adequately," Liana replied, unwilling to admit that she had slept better than expected. "Any developments?" "No signs of pursuit," Alex reported. "We're making good time toward the summit coordinates. I've been reviewing the combined evidence, your materials along with my intelligence, and what Krell managed to transmit before we left Zartax." Liana moved to join Alex at the console, conscious of their proximity in the small space. The display showed a complex web of connections, financial transactions, communication records, shipping manifests, all converging to reveal the conspiracy's structure. The key players are here, Alex indicated, highlighting several names. Weapons manufacturers with facilities in both Draconian and Confederation space, working through shell corporations to hide their collaboration. And their government contacts, Liana added, identifying several official positions in both power structures, including my own superior, Minister Vex. The revelation of betrayal by a high-ranking Draconian official had been one of the most disturbing aspects of Commander Thorne's evidence. Minister Vex had been Liana's mentor, a respected figure who had championed her diplomatic career. To discover his involvement in the conspiracy had shaken her more deeply than she cared to admit. "It's always hardest when it's someone you trusted," Alex said softly, as if reading her thoughts. Liana looked up, meeting those sea-colored eyes. "You've experienced similar betrayal?" A shadow crossed Alex's face. "My former section chief discovered he'd been selling intelligence to private military contractors for years. People died because of information he leaked. Good people, colleagues. The shared experience of betrayal created an unexpected bond between them." Liana found herself sharing more than diplomatic caution would normally permit. "Minister Vex sponsored my admission to the Diplomatic Academy. He guided my career, placed me on this mission personally." She paused, the full implications still painful to acknowledge. "He selected me because I was expendable, a promising but junior diplomat whose death would provoke outrage without risking someone more valuable." Alex's hand moved as if to offer comfort, hesitating before making contact with her scaled arm. The gesture, incomplete but intended, touched Liana nonetheless. "Not expendable," Alex said firmly. "Just underestimated. A mistake they're about to regret." The confidence in the human's voice bolstered Liana's resolve. Together, they spent the day analyzing the evidence and preparing their presentation for the diplomatic summit, working with a synchronicity that belied their brief acquaintance. As the ship's cycle shifted toward evening, they took a break from their preparations. Alex prepared another meal, while Liana stretched her powerful frame, working out the stiffness that came from hours at the console. "Tomorrow we'll run through the complete presentation," Alex said as they ate. "Make sure we've covered all potential objections or attempts to discredit the evidence." Liana nodded, appreciating the human's thoroughness. "The consortium will have representatives at the summit. They'll fight to undermine us. Which is why we need to be perfect," Alex agreed. "No openings, no weaknesses they can exploit." As they finished their meal, a comfortable silence fell between them, the kind that forms between people who have worked closely together toward a shared goal. Liana found herself studying Alex's face, noting the subtle expressions that she was learning to read despite their different physiologies. "You're staring," Alex observed with a hint of amusement. Liana felt her neck frills flutter in embarrassment, but didn't look away. Draconian visual processing works differently than human. We notice details more intensely. "And what details are you noticing?" Alex asked, something unreadable flickering in those sea-colored eyes. The question hung in the air between them, charged with possibilities that Liana hadn't allowed herself to fully acknowledge until this moment. The small space of the ship suddenly felt intimate, rather than confining. "I notice," she began carefully, "that you have never shown fear or revulsion toward my draconian features. Even those who work with my kind professionally often betray subtle signs of discomfort." Alex's expression softened. "Why would I fear something beautiful?" The word struck Liana like a physical force. Beautiful. No non-Draconian had ever used that word to describe her species. Impressive, intimidating, exotic. These were common descriptors. But beautiful. "You find Draconians beautiful?" she asked, unable to keep the surprise from her voice. "I find you beautiful," Alex clarified, gaze steady and sincere. "The way your scales catch the light, the elegant structure of your facial ridges, the gold of your eyes." Leanna felt a warmth spreading through her that had nothing to do with her species' naturally higher body temperature. The directness of Alex's words, echoing draconian communication styles rather than human circumlocution, affected her deeply. She began, then stopped, uncharacteristically lost for words. Alex smiled gently. Too direct? I'm trying to honor your cultural preference for straightforward communication. No, Leanna said quickly. Not too direct. Just unexpected. Good unexpected or concerning unexpected? Alex asked. A hint of vulnerability showing through the confident exterior. Good, Leanna admitted softly. Very good. The moment stretched between them, taut with unspoken possibilities. Then the ship's alert system chimed, breaking the spell as both of them shifted instantly to professional alertness. Alex moved quickly to the cockpit, checking the sensors with practiced efficiency. Routine system alert. We're passing through a debris field. The ship is adjusting course automatically. Leanna followed, looking over the human shoulder at the navigation display. An old battle site? Likely, Alex confirmed. This sector saw heavy fighting during the border disputes 50 years ago. Space is littered with the remnants. The ship adjusted its course smoothly, continuing its journey toward the diplomatic summit. But something had shifted between Leanna and Alex, a threshold crossed that could not be undone. As they returned to the main living area, an awkward silence replaced their earlier comfort. Leanna found herself uncharacteristically uncertain, her diplomatic training offering no guidance for navigating these unfamiliar emotional waters. We should rest, Alex finally suggested. Tomorrow will be our final full day before reaching the summit. We need to be at our best. Leanna nodded, relieved and disappointed at once by the return to practicality. Yes, that would be wise. They prepared for the sleep cycle with careful politeness, the privacy screen between their sleeping areas seeming more like a barrier than a courtesy now. As the ship's lighting dimmed, Leanna lay awake, her thoughts in turmoil. What was happening between them? Was it merely the intensity of shared danger creating an illusion of connection? Or something more significant, a recognition that transcended their different species and backgrounds? Leanna? Alex's voice came softly from beyond the screen. Are you awake? Yes, she replied, equally quiet. A pause. Then, I meant what I said earlier. I don't want you to think it was just diplomatic courtesy. Leanna felt that warmth spreading through her again. Draconians value honesty above courtesy. I would have known if you were being merely polite. Good. Another pause. Good rest, Leanna. Good rest, Alex. Sleep came eventually. But her dreams were vivid and confusing. Images of diplomatic chambers transforming into the intimate confines of the ship. Formal negotiations becoming personal confessions. And always those sea-colored eyes, looking at her with an appreciation no non-draconian had ever shown. The final day of their journey passed in focused preparation. They rehearsed their presentation of the evidence, anticipated potential challenges, and discussed contingency plans. The professional focus provided a welcome structure, allowing them to interact without directly addressing the growing personal connection between them. As the ship's cycle shifted toward evening once more, Alex checked their position on the navigation console. We'll reach the summit coordinates by mid-morning tomorrow. The diplomatic station is hidden in the nebula. Excellent natural camouflage against detection. Leanna nodded, studying the stellar map. A wise choice for the contingency location. The radiation patterns will disrupt most scanning technologies. Exactly. Alex turned from the console, facing her directly. By this time tomorrow, the conspiracy will be exposed. The peace treaty will proceed. Our mission will be complete, Leanna added, suddenly aware of what that meant. Their paths would likely diverge. The thought brought an unexpected ache. Yes. Alex's expression held a similar realization. Though I suspect the aftermath will keep us both busy for some time. Conspiracies this extensive don't unravel neatly. They prepared a final meal together, the routine now familiar after days in the small ship. As they ate, the conversation drifted from professional topics to more personal ones: childhood memories, formative experiences, aspirations beyond their current roles. "Did you always want to be a diplomat?" Alex asked. Leanna considered the question thoughtfully. "Not initially. I trained as a xenobiologist first. The study of different life forms and their evolutionary adaptations fascinated me. Diplomacy came later, when I realized that understanding other species was as much about culture as biology." "The two aren't really separate, are they?" Alex observed. "Biology shapes culture. Culture influences biological development." "Precisely." Leanna felt that now familiar pleasure at being truly understood. "And you? Was intelligence work always your path?" Alex's expression grew more reflective. "I started in xenolinguistics, the study of non-human languages and communication systems. That led to cultural analysis, which caught the attention of Terran intelligence. The transition was natural, in a way. Both fields involve decoding patterns, finding meaning in what others miss. We have parallel journeys, then," Leanna noted, "different starting points converging on similar paths." "Convergent evolution," Alex suggested with a smile, referencing the biological phenomenon where different species develop similar traits independently. The comparison delighted Leanna, scientifically apt and personally meaningful. "Yes, exactly that." As they finished their meal and cleared away the remnants, the awareness of their final night aboard the ship hung unspoken between them. Tomorrow would bring the culmination of their mission and, likely, separation. "I should review my notes one last time," Leanna said, more from uncertainty about what else to say than actual necessity. "Of course," Alex agreed, equally awkward. "I'll run a final systems check before the sleep cycle." They moved to their respective tasks, the small ship suddenly feeling too confined and too empty at once. Leanna stared at her notes, without really seeing them, her mind preoccupied with thoughts of their imminent arrival at the summit and what would follow. When Alex returned to the main living area, Leanna looked up to find the human watching her with an expression of quiet intensity. "All systems nominal," Alex reported, the professional words at odds with the personal undercurrent between them. "Good," Leanna replied inadequately. "My review is complete as well." They stood in silence, the ship humming softly around them, the universe vast and empty beyond its hull, yet the space between them charged with unspoken possibilities. "We should," Alex began. "I don't want," Leanna said simultaneously. They both stopped, a smile breaking through the tension. "You first," Alex offered. Leanna took a deep breath, her diplomatic training failing her entirely in this most personal of negotiations. "I was going to say, I don't want to return to my sleeping area yet. I find I am reluctant for this journey to end." The admission cost her something in draconian pride, but the relief of honesty was worth the price. Alex's expression softened. "I was about to suggest we should take some time to decompress before the summit tomorrow. Diplomatic presentations are stressful, even for experienced operatives." "Decompress," Leanna repeated, a smile tugging at her lips. "Is that the human diplomatic term for, I don't want this to end either?" Alex laughed softly, the sound warming Leanna from within. "Caught in my own evasion? Yes, that's exactly what it means." The honesty between them cleared the air like a summer storm, leaving a fresh clarity in its wake. Leanna found herself moving closer to Alex, drawn by a force as natural as gravity. "In draconian culture," she said softly, "we believe that shared danger creates a bond that transcends ordinary connections, a trusting of one's life to another." "Many human cultures have similar beliefs," Alex replied, not retreating from her approach. The intensity of survival, the heightened awareness of mortality, They strip away pretense, reveal what truly matters. They stood now, just a breath apart. Liana's greater height allowing her to look down into those sea-colored eyes that had first caught her attention in the tavern on Zartax. "And what truly matters, Alex?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. In answer, Alex reached up, hesitating just before touching her scaled face. A question in the gesture. Liana leaned into the touch, giving permission, and felt the human's warm fingers trace the ridges of her cheek with gentle exploration. "This," Alex murmured. "Connection. Understanding. Seeing beyond the surface to what lies beneath." The touch sent shivers along Liana's scales, a sensation both foreign and exhilarating. Without conscious thought, she lowered her head, bringing her face closer to Alex's. "Is this acceptable in human culture?" she asked, her breath mingling with the human's. Alex's lips curved in a smile. "Universally so." The kiss that followed was gentle, an exploration rather than a demand. A discovery of how draconian and human physiology could find harmony despite their differences. Liana's scales tingled where they met Alex's softer skin, the contrast creating a sensation unlike anything she had experienced with her own kind. When they finally separated, both were breathing faster, their eyes locked in shared wonder at the boundary they had crossed. "That was," Liana began. "Xenobiologically fascinating," Alex suggested with a teasing smile. Liana laughed, a rare, unguarded sound. "I was going to say transformative, but your description is also accurate." Alex's expression grew more serious, though the warmth remained. "This complicates our mission. Or clarifies it," Liana countered. "We fight not just for abstract peace between species, but for the possibility of genuine connection across differences." "A diplomat to the core," Alex said with admiration, finding the perfect framing for any situation. Liana's clawed hand rose to touch Alex's face in return, careful of her sharp edges against the human's more vulnerable skin. Not diplomatic framing. Truth. They stood together in the quiet hum of the ship, the universe vast around them, their mission ahead of them, and something new and precious growing between them. Without words, they moved toward the sleeping quarters, the privacy screen remaining undeployed as they created a shared space from the separate units. In the soft glow of the ship's night cycle, Draconian and human discovered each other, differences becoming points of fascination rather than barriers, similarities creating bridges of understanding. Their exploration was gentle, respectful, each asking permission and giving guidance as they navigated the uncharted territory between their species. Morning found them curled together, Liana's larger frame protectively curved around Alex's, her natural heat keeping them both warm in the ship's efficient but not luxurious climate control. They woke slowly, neither rushing to break the peaceful cocoon they had created. "No regrets?" Alex asked softly, turning to face Liana. The draconian diplomat studied the human's face in the gentle light of the ship's morning cycle. "Draconians do not believe in regret. We make choices and honor their consequences, whether joyful or difficult." "And this choice?" Alex pressed, a hint of vulnerability showing through. Liana's scaled hand caressed the human's face. "This choice brings joy. Whatever challenges follow, that truth remains." They prepared for arrival at the diplomatic station with a new harmony in their movements, an awareness of each other that went beyond professional cooperation. The ship's sensors detected the hidden station embedded in the nebula's swirling gases, and Alex navigated the final approach with practiced skill. As they prepared to dock, standing together in the cockpit, Liana felt a momentary hesitation. "What happens after the summit? After we present the evidence?" Alex turned to her, expression serious, but eyes warm. "Officially, you return to your diplomatic duties, presumably with a promotion for exposing the conspiracy. I return to my intelligence work, following up on the wider network the consortium was part of. And unofficially? Liana asked, the question holding all their unspoken hopes. Alex smiled, reaching for her scaled hand. Unofficially. I think we have a compelling case to make for a joint task force. Draconian diplomatic insight combined with Terran intelligence resources. The perfect team to monitor the peace implementation. A logical proposal, Liana agreed, her formal tone belied by the warmth in her golden eyes. One, I would be inclined to support diplomatically. I thought you might, Alex replied, squeezing her hand gently as the ship completed its docking sequence. Ready to change the course of interstellar relations. Emissary? Liana straightened to her full, impressive height, every inch the draconian diplomat, yet with a new softness in her expression as she looked at the human beside her. With you, Agent Alex. I believe I'm ready for anything. The docking bay doors opened before them, revealing the diplomatic station beyond, and the future they would forge together. 3 days later, the historic Draconian-Turellian peace treaty was signed in the central chamber of the hidden diplomatic station. The conspiracy had been exposed, the evidence presented jointly by Draconian emissary Liana and Terran intelligence agent Alex proving irrefutable. Minister Vex and his Confederation counterparts had been detained, the weapons consortium dismantled, its assets frozen pending investigation. The ceremony was small, but significant. Representatives of both major powers and several independent systems witnessing the formal end to centuries of tension and periodic conflict. As the principals signed the documents, Liana stood at the chamber's edge, watching history unfold with the satisfaction of a diplomat who had fulfilled her mission against all odds. She felt Alex's presence before the human spoke, a newfound sensitivity to the other's proximity that still surprised her. Quite a moment, Alex said softly, coming to stand beside her. Worth almost dying for, I'd say. Liana's lips curved in a smile. Worth sharing a bed for, certainly. Alex's laugh drew a few curious glances from nearby diplomats, quickly redirected when they met Liana's dignified gaze. The human composed a more serious expression, though the eyes that met hers still danced with private amusement. About that, Alex began, an unexpected formality entering the tone. I've been researching draconian customs more thoroughly, particularly those surrounding significant relationships. Liana felt her neck frills flutter with surprise, and something like hope. Have you? Now? Indeed. Alex produced a small object from a pocket, a scaled band similar to draconian craftsmanship, but with subtle Terran design elements woven through. I understand that in your culture, after two individuals have shared sleeping quarters, there is a formal period of courtship that may follow, signified by an exchange of personal items. Liana's golden eyes widened. The human had indeed done thorough research. That particular draconian custom was not widely known outside her species. That is correct, she confirmed, her voice softer than her diplomatic training would normally permit. Though such courtships between species are unusual. I specialize in unusual situations, Alex replied with a smile, offering the band. If it would be acceptable to you, I would like to formally request the honor of courtship. Liana of House Caraxi, according to your customs and with respect for your traditions. The formal request, delivered with perfect adherence to draconian protocol, yet infused with Alex's unique warmth, touched Liana deeply. Around them, the diplomatic proceedings continued, history being written in formal language and official seals. But here, in this quiet corner, a different kind of history was unfolding, personal, profound, and perhaps equally significant for the future of interspecies relations. I accept your request, Alex of Terra, Liana replied, taking the band and securing it around her wrist in the traditional manner. From her own ceremonial attire, she removed a small emblem of her house, a cherished personal item, and placed it in Alex's palm. and offer this token in accordance with the customs of my people." Their hands met, scaled fingers entwining with human ones in a physical representation of the bridge they had built between their worlds. In their private space amid public ceremony, draconian formality met human warmth, creating something new and precious in the space between stars. "The diplomats are staring," Alex murmured, noticing the subtle attention their exchange had attracted. Liana's lips curved in a rare public smile. "Let them stare. Perhaps they will learn something about true diplomacy, the kind that begins with understanding rather than advantage." "Always the teacher," Alex said with affectionate teasing. "And you are always the investigator," Liana returned, "seeking truths others miss." Together, they turned back to witness the completion of the treaty signing, standing side by side as representatives of their respective worlds, yet also as something more, pioneers of a personal frontier as vast and promising as the stars themselves. 6 months later, Liana stood at the viewport of their new joint quarters on the interspecies diplomatic station, orbiting neutral space. The newly established Joint Monitoring Task Force, her diplomatic experience combined with Alex's intelligence background, had proven remarkably effective at identifying and neutralizing threats to the still fragile peace. She felt Alex's approach before hearing the human's footsteps, that awareness between them having only deepened with time. "Contemplating the vastness of space again?" Alex asked, coming to stand beside her at the viewport. "Contemplating journeys," Liana corrected, turning to face her courtship partner. "The one that brought us here, and those that lie ahead." Alex's hand found hers, the gesture now familiar and still thrilling. "From a crashed pod on a hostile world to this? Not bad for a draconian diplomat and a geological surveyor." Liana laughed, the sound coming more easily these days. "The diplomatic corps still hasn't fully adjusted to our partnership. Administrator Sorrel nearly lost his neck frills when we requested joint quarters. Conservative old structures change slowly," Alex acknowledged. "But they do change. Look at us, proof of that." Liana's golden eyes studied the human who had transformed her understanding of connection. "When I boarded that evacuation pod, I never imagined where it would truly lead. To shared beds and formal courtships?" Alex suggested with a teasing smile. "To discovering that differences can be bridges rather than barriers," Liana corrected, though her expression held equal warmth. "That fear can become curiosity, and curiosity can become love," Alex finished simply. "Across species, across stars." The word hung between them, acknowledged in actions for months, but spoken aloud for the first time. Liana felt it resonate through her scaled form, a truth as undeniable as the stars beyond the viewport. "Yes," she agreed softly. "Love. In the space between worlds." They had found something neither had sought, but both now cherished. A connection that transcended biology and culture. A personal treaty more profound than any formal document. As their lips met in the privacy of their shared quarters, Liana reflected that sometimes the most unexpected crashes led to the most beautiful discoveries. And sometimes sharing a bed was just the beginning.